Hello and welcome to Capital Catch-Up. I'm Victor.
And I'm Lenny. Today we are digging into a substantial docket from both chambers of Congress, covering everything from a potential paradigm shift in federal employment policy to the granular details of toxic waste disclosure.
We are looking at activities spanning mid to late February 2026, specifically the congressional records from February 13th through the 23rd. Let's start with the Senate because there is a piece of legislation there that, if passed, would be historically significant. I'm talking about Senate Bill 3864, the Federal Jobs Guarantee Development Act of 2026.
That is the headline grabber, Victor. A federal jobs guarantee is a concept that economists have debated since the New Deal era of the 1930s. Essentially, this bill proposes a framework where the government acts as an employer of last resort. The implication here is massive. It shifts the burden of full employment from the private sector to the public sector during economic downturns.
It's a bold move, and it pairs interestingly with what we are seeing over in the House regarding education and workforce readiness. We have House Resolution 7594, the Workforce Development through Post-Graduation Scholarships Act of 2026, and House Resolution 7536, the Graduate Act.
Right. While the Senate bill looks at the safety net, these House measures are trying to refine the pipeline. The Workforce Development Bill appears to target that critical gap between finishing school and actually having the skills a specific industry needs. We also saw Senate Bill 3832, the Small Business Workforce Pipeline Act, introduced.
It seems there is a bicameral consensus that the transition from education to employment is currently broken, even if the parties might disagree on the fix.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears to consumer protection and environmental safety, there is a bill that caught my eye. House Resolution 7595, the Superfund Area Facts and Exposure Act.
Superfund refers to those polluted locations requiring long-term response to clean up hazardous material contaminations.
Exactly. This bill seems designed to close the information gap. For everyday Americans, this is about knowing if the house you are buying is sitting next to or on top of a toxic history. It built on previous transparency laws, but Exposure Act suggests it might mandate more direct notifications to residents about health risks.
Speaking of housing, we also have House Resolution 7596, the Improving Housing Act. Housing inventory is a perennial issue, so we'll be watching to see if this incentivizes new construction or focuses on lending practices.
On the topic of protection, I want to highlight House Resolution 1732, the Guard VA Benefits Act.
This is a critical one for veterans. There has been a rise in unaccredited entities charging veterans fees to help file disability claims, services that are usually free. The GUARD Act is likely trying to reinstate criminal penalties for that predatory behavior.
It is a necessary safeguard, and in a similar vein of supporting vulnerable populations, we have House Resolution 7535, the Second Chance Mental Health Access Act of 2026. This usually refers to ensuring continuity of care for individuals re-entering society after incarceration, which is statistically one of the most dangerous times for mental health crises.
Let's look at the financial sector for a moment. The Senate has introduced Senate Bill 3831, the Enhancing Multi-Class Share Disclosures Act.
This is for the investors listening. Many tech companies launch with dual-class stock structures that give founders massive voting control compared to regular shareholders. This bill aims to make those risks clear to the average 401k holder.
And a quick mention of the Shadow Act, House Resolution 7632. While the text is brief, the acronym usually points towards transparency regarding foreign influence or shadow banking. We'll keep an eye on the committee markup for that.
Speaking of committees, we have two major hearings scheduled for March 3rd, 2026. The first is on the National Defense Strategy.
And that one has a procedural note attached, to be immediately followed by a closed session.
For our listeners, a closed session means they are discussing classified information. The public hearing will likely cover the broad strokes of global threats, but the real decision-making data will be shared behind those closed doors in SVC 217.
The second hearing is on AI that improves safety, productivity, and care. This is a pivot from the doom and gloom AI hearings we saw in 2024 and 2025. It looks like Congress is trying to identify the dividends of the technology, perhaps in healthcare or industrial safety.
Moving on to personnel, the Senate has a slate of nominations to consider. A significant one is the reappointment of Christopher T. Hansen to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
Stability at the NRC is crucial as the energy conversation shifts back toward nuclear. We also see John DeLue nominated to the National Transportation Safety Board. Given the recent focus on aviation and rail safety, the NTSB is a high-profile assignment right now.
On the diplomatic front, we have several State Department moves. Wesley Brooks is up for Assistant Secretary of State for Oceans and International Environmental and Scientific Affairs. That is a mouthful, but it's the key role for negotiating global climate and ocean treaties. We also have Jeremy Carl nominated for Assistant Secretary of State for International Organizations, and William Long nominated as Ambassador to Iceland. And Robert Sweeney is tapped for the Asian Development Bank. That is a strategic economic role, essentially representing U.S. interests in how infrastructure is funded across Asia, serving as a counterbalance to other regional powers. Before we wrap up, we should mention the local impacts. We have 2 post office redesignations. House Resolution 7532 names a facility in Philadelphia the Dr. Constance Connie E. Clayton Post Office, honoring a legendary educator. And Senate Bill 3835 designates a facility in Mahaffey, Pennsylvania as the Robert Allen Bishop Sr. Post Office Building. These bills are routine, but they matter immensely to the communities keeping those local legacies alive.
Finally, looking at the Congressional Daily Records, specifically Volume 172, numbers 31 through 35, we see the procedural backbone of all this. These records confirm the introduction of the bills we just discussed and document the floor debates.
It is always worth remembering that the Daily Record is the official history of the United States Congress. If it isn't in there, it didn't officially happen.
So, what should listeners watch for in the coming days?
Keep your eyes on Senate Bill 3864, the Jobs Guarantee. Even if it doesn't pass immediately, it signals a major shift in the Democratic platform for the 2026 midterms.
And watch for the readout from that closed-door defense strategy meeting. We won't get the classified details, but the tone of the senators emerging from that room will tell us a lot about the current global threat level.
Thanks for listening to Capital Catch-Up.
We'll be back next time the gavel falls.